The courtroom was quiet, with a low hum of tension in the air. Tall wooden walls surrounded the room, giving it a solemn feel. The judge's bench loomed high above everyone, an imposing figure ready to command respect. In the center sat a long table where the farmer, clad in his work clothes, waited nervously. The bright overhead lights cast a harsh glow, highlighting the anxious faces of those gathered. As the case began, whispers filled the room. People were curious about this farmer, why he was there and what he had done. He was just a simple man from the countryside, but today his life would be on the line. His eyes darted between the judge and his attorney, seeking reassurance amidst all the seriousness. This was more than just a legal battle. It was about his way of life. As everyone settled into their seats, anticipation hung like weighty clouds overhead. The stakes were clear. This case could change everything for him and his family. Little did they know that within moments, everything would take an unexpected turn that none could foresee. The farmer, named Joe, was a man of the land. His sun-kissed skin and calloused hands told stories of long days spent in the fields. Growing up in a small rural town, he learned the value of hard work from an early age. His family had farmed the same land for generations, growing crops and raising livestock that provided everything they needed. With each word he spoke, his thick accent revealed his roots, a melodic blend of rural charm and sincerity. It was a sound that resonated with honesty, but in the sterile environment of the courtroom, it felt like a mark of difference. While other voices echoed clearly within the walls of justice, Joe's accent seemed to carry a weight of judgment. Despite the nervousness that bubbled inside him, Joe stood tall. He had always believed that his worth came from his character and labor, not how he sounded. Facing the judge and jury, he was determined to share his story. Little did he know how pivotal this moment would be, both for him and for those who were about to hear him speak. As Joe stood before the judge, her sharp gaze scanned the room, taking in each person present. When she finally focused on him, a brief smirk crossed her lips. She had never encountered a case quite like this, and his thick accent was unexpected. It struck her as quaint yet somewhat amusing, and without thinking, she let out a laugh that rippled through the courtroom. The laughter echoed against the wooden walls, cutting through the tense atmosphere. Gasps followed as the judge realized her reaction might have been too harsh. Joe's face blanched at the sound. He felt the heat of embarrassment wash over him. The judge's laughter seemed to lessen his worth in an instant, overshadowing his years of hard work and dedication. This moment set an uneasy tone for the proceedings. The jury exchanged glances, unsure of how to interpret her reaction or what it meant for Joe's case. Little did the judge realize this first impression could turn into a turning point, unleashing a wave of unexpected emotions that would soon shift the dynamics in the room entirely. The moment the judge's laughter erupted, Joe felt a wave of humiliation wash over him. His cheeks flushed, but he quickly straightened his posture, refusing to let her reaction define him. He took a deep breath, searching for his voice amid the noise in his mind. With renewed determination, he stepped forward slightly, ready to assert himself. "I may not speak like most folks in this room," he began, his voice steady despite the quiver of nerves beneath the surface. "But I know this land better than anyone." Each word carried a weight born of years of hard work and sacrifice. As he spoke, he could sense the shifting attention of the jury, their eyes now focused on him rather than the judge. Joe explained how his family had worked the farm for generations, sharing heartfelt stories about their struggles and triumphs. His dignity shone through as he spoke from his heart, showcasing not just his accent, but also his values and pride in his heritage. In that moment, Joe understood he had more than just a story to tell. He had the strength to stand tall against judgment and represent himself with honor. As Joe gathered his thoughts, the details of the case began to unfold, revealing the weight of the accusations against him. He stood accused of neglecting his farmland, a serious charge that threatened not only his livelihood, but also his family's legacy. The land had been his family for generations, and to be labeled a negligent farmer felt like a personal attack on everything he valued. The prosecutor presented evidence, claiming that Joe had failed to maintain his crops and allowed weeds to overtake his fields. Yet, Joe knew the truth. The past season had brought unusual weather patterns, leaving him with little choice but to fight for survival. His neighbors depended on him, as their community thrived on the collaboration of local farmers. If he lost this case, it would send shockwaves through their small town, affecting far more than just his own family. Feeling the eyes of the jury upon him, Joe recognized that this was not merely about him. It was about protecting a way of life and the bonds that held their community together. With each passing moment, he felt the urgency to express how vital his farm was to not only his future, but also that of the entire community. As the courtroom fell silent, Joe took a moment to collect himself. He could feel the weight of his family's history pressing on his shoulders. With a deep breath, he began to speak, his voice steady and unwavering. This land is not just dirt to me, it's my heritage. My father and grandfather worked these fields with pride. They taught me that farming is about more than just growing crops. It's about feeding families and building a community. He gestured passionately, his hands expressing the depth of his emotions. When the storms came last season, I fought with everything I had to save my land. I didn't give up. I can't give up. If I lose this farm, it's not just my future at stake. It affects all of my neighbors who rely on me and my crops. His words resonated through the courtroom, causing even the judge to lean in slightly. The jury exchanged glances, clearly moved by his heartfelt plea. In that moment, Joe transformed from an accused farmer into a passionate advocate for his way of life, shifting the dynamics in the room as everyone started to see the truth behind his struggles. As Joe's heartfelt testimony echoed in the courtroom, the judge felt a shift within herself. Initially, she had dismissed him based on his thick accent, thinking it made him less credible. But now, as she watched him speak with such passion and conviction, her perspective began to change. The weight of his words struck her deeply, revealing not just a farmer fighting for his land, but a man who embodied the spirit of resilience and community. The judge realized that her earlier laughter had been misguided, a reflection of her own biases rather than an accurate judgment of Joe's character. She began to listen intently, recognizing the depth of his struggles and the importance of his story. It dawned on her that every farmer's voice deserves respect, regardless of how they sound. In that moment, she understood the true essence of justice, valuing each person's experiences and acknowledging their worth beyond superficial judgments. As she looked around the courtroom, she noticed the jury's faces were now filled with empathy, mirroring her own realization. The dynamics in the room had shifted profoundly. She was no longer merely a judge, but a witness to the power of understanding and connection. As Joe continued to speak, the energy in the courtroom shifted. His words flowed with sincerity, painting a vivid picture of his life on the farm. He spoke of early mornings, the smell of fresh soil, and the joy of watching his children play in the field where he had grown up. Each story illustrated not just his commitment to farming, but also his devotion to his family and community. The jury listened intently, captivated by his authenticity. They could see the pride shining in his eyes as he recounted the struggles he faced during droughts and storms, always fighting to keep his land alive. "This farm is my heart," he said, his voice rising with emotion. "It's where I learned hard work and determination from my parents. It's where I teach my kids the same values." As he spoke, Joe's strength became palpable. He was not just defending himself. He was standing up for every farmer who had ever faced adversity. The jury began to nod in understanding, their expressions softening as they recognized the truth in his words. In that moment, Joe transformed into a symbol of resilience, uniting everyone in the room through shared values of family and hard work. The moment of the verdict arrived, filling the courtroom with palpable tension. The judge took her place behind the bench, her expression serious yet contemplative. Joe stood, heart racing, surrounded by his family and friends who had come to support him. As she prepared to announce her decision, he could feel the energy in the room shift again, this time towards hope. After a brief pause that felt like eternity, the judge cleared her throat and addressed the court. After careful consideration of the evidence presented, I find that Joe has not neglected his farmland, she declared firmly. His commitment to his land and community is evident and commendable. Relief washed over Joe as gasps of surprise spread through the courtroom. The judge continued, I recognize now that my initial reaction was misguided. Every farmer's story deserves respect. Her newfound respect for Joe was clear as she acknowledged not only his hard work, but also the spirit of resilience he embodied. As she dropped the gavel to conclude the case, a wave of emotion filled the room. Joe's victory was not just a personal triumph. It represented hope for all farmers fighting against misunderstanding and bias. The jury's nods echoed their support, celebrating his hard-fought battle. In the aftermath of the trial, the courtroom buzzed with reflections on the day's events. Joe's case had not only brought a personal victory, but also sparked deeper conversations about judgment and empathy. Many left with a newfound understanding that people should never be underestimated based on their accents or appearances. The judge herself took time to reflect on how her initial reaction to Joe's accent clouded her judgment. She realized it was essential to listen with an open heart and mind, recognizing that every individual has a story worth hearing. Her transformation illustrated a crucial lesson. That understanding involves looking beyond superficial traits to grasp the rich experiences that shape a person. Joe's strength in the face of adversity reminded everyone of the power of perseverance and the importance of standing up for one's rights. The courtroom served as a microcosm of society, highlighting how biases can create barriers. As people walked out, they carried with them a commitment to foster a community grounded in respect and compassion. In the end, this story became more than just about Joe's fight for his farm. It became a call to honor the diverse voices within their community, emphasizing that everyone deserves dignity and understanding in their life journey.